Alright guys, so I'm going to answer the most common question I get asked every single time someone sees my truck. Can you fit 35-inch tires on this truck? The answer is yes, you can. So every setup's going to be a little different. Now if you're talking 35, 12.5 on 9 wide wheels or 10 wide wheels, you can almost get away with stock height and just cranking the torsion bars a little bit. Depending on the offset, you might need to do some modifications, but if you're just going to do a 9 or 10 wide wheel, it's not that necessary to purchase a leveling kit, although if you do, you're going to get more clearance. Now when you're moving into 12 wides like what I have here, these are 22 by 12 negative 51 offset, so commonly, you know, there's going to be negative 44 or more offset on a wheel like this. You will need to trim, and you will need a leveling kit. Now that's to do it properly, so I can show you right now what I mean by that. So on this side I actually cut this here, and I actually have a bumper shim. You don't need to do that. I didn't need to do that. I actually just wanted to keep going lower and lower because the truck rides better. Now, can you put a leveling kit on this truck and make the setup fit and not trim that much? Yes, it will ride like a brick. It'll ride horrible. That's what I wanted to get away from. As soon as I got it back from Les Schwab, they had this thing cranked out, maxed out, nothing rubbed, but it rode like absolute dog shit. So I started modifying it myself. Now, you are gonna have to remove this rear mud flap. Not a big deal. It wasn't very hard. There's some bracketry back here, but you are gonna have to remove that to do 12 wides on this truck. Now I went even further and trimmed this right here. I did that so I could go lower, and I can show you on the other side why I had to do that. You can see when the wheel turns, it would actually hit there, but now that I cut that, it does not rub at all. This fender liner actually just pushes back, so although it is mounted up here, once you take the mud flap off, you can actually just push that back. I didn't have to zip tie it or anything. Now on the front side here, I'll go on this side because there's more room. After you trim this piece to get your tire to clear, the only other spot you're gonna hit, which you can see right here where it used to hit, is right where the fender liner is. Now you can zip tie this back quite a bit to get the clearance you need. I actually cut this bracket. There's a bracket right here where this bolt is. I cut it and folded this thing up, so I actually have a lot more room to even go lower. I'm thinking I could almost be stock height and clear these now by folding that up, because my truck is not very tall in the front. It's actually a little lower in the front. I believe it's 1.5 inches lower in the front than the rear. It might not look that way, but I've measured it ground to fender several times. So I'm sitting around 42 inches from ground to top of fender here. I should say bottom of fender. Ground to bottom of fender, I'm about 42 inches on level ground. And the back is about 43.25 from ground to fender. So I hope this helps solve some issues people have, some tips for it to ride nice. Yes, you can use the previous generation 2015 to 2017 shocks. Those are the same, but you will need upper control arms for sure. Helps big time, especially with the clearance right here. Sorry, I'm trying to get it. This clearance right here is very important. When you get a leveling kit with stock upper control arms and it's maxed out, you will see that you will have little to no clearance here, and that's going to be a clunking noise that you might hear too. So there's a couple things to make this ride right, but in a nutshell, yes, you are going to have to trim. You're going to have to trim here up front, and if you want it to ride correctly, like, you can get away with just trimming the front and not trimming the rear but taking the mud flap off, but it will ride like a brick. As soon as I cut this piece in the back off and lowered it another inch or so, the truck rode way better. It's because every time you crank these keys and raise your torsion bar, this bar right here, up, you're putting more tension on that, and your suspension is going to get stiffer and stiffer, especially when you don't have clearance here. If you don't have clearance here, you're going to be riding on metal no matter what. So I hope this cleared up a lot of questions people might have on how to fit 35s on the new style truck. Like I said, if you're doing 9 or 10 wides, it's not necessary to trim anything. You can get away. You might have to trim a little bit in the front, but not much. So I'm talking 12 wides or bigger with a bigger offset. The last thing I'll say is my setup, if anybody's curious, it's Traxda leveling keys, Traxda, Traxda leveling keys, full throttle suspension UCAs, and Fox 2.0 shocks. I got this kit from Suspension Superstore. A guy named Rob there was super helpful. I was one of the first trucks to get a leveling kit on the 2020s back in October, and we had to mix and match a couple things to make it work right, but he hooked it up with the setup big time. So huge shout out to Rob. Hope this helps you guys. Thanks for checking out the channel. Subscribe above if you like what you see, and I can go through a lot more on this truck. I mean, got some Arkon wheels on here. Huge shout out to Arkon Offroad. Did a paint match on here. So if you guys have any more questions or want to see any more videos, just shoot me a comment below and I'll get back to you.